Hey you guys, it's Cayley. I am back with another what sold from last week video. I don't really know what's going on with my hair. It was a rainy day today. It's all natural, but hair doesn't matter for sales. So we're just gonna go with it. I talked with you guys a lot about where the business is at on that last what sold video. So if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. I'll give you some insight as to where we're at. But things are so far looking really good. Last week's sales dipped, which was kind of expected. It was, Christmas and then the few days leading after that, which traditionally for me are semi-slow, and then they bounce back up the next week. And so far, sales have been good for this week that I'm living in, which I'll share with you guys next week. But last week was relatively slow sales, not where I want to be at, but we'll definitely bounce back. I still had some really great bolos sell though, so I'm going to share those with you today. If you want to follow along with my journey, you can make sure to subscribe down below and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified as I post these what sold videos. These videos are kind of just a way for me to track where I'm at and how I'm doing, and also to share with you guys some things that are selling that you might want to look for while you are out at your local thrift store if you want to do the same thing. So since I talked so much in the last one, let's dive into these sales.
All right, you guys. So everything that you see here on the screen happened between December 25th through December 31st. I am trying to go quickly because I'm a little bit behind on these what sold videos. Actually, tomorrow is Sunday, which starts a whole new week for me, and then I'll be filming another one. So I did want to get this one out of the way really quickly for you. As you guys will see, sales were much slower, which again is to be expected during that week right after Christmas and including Christmas. In total on two platforms, I sold 241 items for a gross sales total of $4,732.05, making my average sale price very low at $19.64. That is due to moving a ton of stuff. Again, I did another closet clear out run on Poshmark and kind of liquidated some stuff out of there. But a higher average sale price on eBay, as has been the norm for the last few weeks. Actually, probably a couple months now. We've been running a lot of those clearance sales. Estimated cost of goods based on an average buy cost was $964. Estimated net is $2,406.44. On eBay, I sold 77 items. On Poshmark, I sold a grand total of 164 items. Again, most of those were like clearance, moving out older stuff, but I did have some higher price sales on there as well that I did want to show you that were like good solid sales. Gross sales on eBay were almost $2,500, and on Poshmark they were just over $2,200. So you can see I sold a bunch of stuff there, but didn't even make as much as eBay, selling under half of the items. And so average sale price really does play a role into your business of how much work you're putting in and stuff like that. But I also don't want items dragging my store down, which is why we're moving a lot of these out here. So let's dive into some of the higher price sales, some good solid sellers that I do recommend you picking up. Hopefully that will not also sit in your store. So this first one is a Free People women's blazer. I just recently have just started finding a lot of women's Free People blazers. I don't know what the deal is. I guess I didn't really know that they made blazers just because I had never run across them, but lately I've been finding a lot of them and they have been selling really, really well. So this is just a pretty plain red stripe blazer, but comps looked really good. I paid $5.99 for this at a Goodwill. We listed for $49.89. And within a couple of months, it sold for our full asking price. Next up is a brand I've been experimenting with. If you guys watch my previous what sold videos, you'll hear me mention it here and there that I'm kind of testing this brand out and trying to figure out what works. Klein is a brand that retails for a ton, and it definitely has a following. Resale wise, it's very hit or miss, and so I'm trying to figure out what the hits are. So this is a wool blend overcoat. Obviously outerwear are more substantial pieces. That's always going to be something that adds value. This one was also a larger size and a size 18, and I thought the aesthetic of it was really good as well. It's kind of like almost like a military field looking style in a neutral brown. So I picked this one up. I actually paid up for this. I paid $12.50. You might have seen this in one of my Thrift With Me videos when I was deciding to get it. We listed it for $54.87. I sent out offers to watchers one day for, I think it was 20% off, and someone accepted an offer of $43.90. This one sold in about a month, so a really quick sale, and even though I paid up for it, I had a really good return on investment. Not telling you to pay up for Calvin Klein, definitely do your comps to know if it's worth getting at that price, but I would say definitely look for Calvin Klein outerwear, and then also larger sizes seems to be upping the value, but I wanted to report back on that brand. Those are my findings so far. Next up is Ralph Lauren. You guys know I love picking up Ralph Lauren pieces. This one was a merino wool cashmere Angora blend cardigan. So a lot of materials going for it. Also cable knit, very soft and cozy. There is quite a bit of pilling throughout this one, which we made sure to note. Even with the pilling, we paid $4.89 for it. We listed it for $49.87. It sold within just a couple of weeks for our full asking price. So if you haven't already, you can search Cayley, Elaine, Ralph Lauren, and find that video where I do a deep dive into Ralph Lauren and its lines and kind of some things to look for. But this is a really solid seller for me, and factors that really up the value in this brand. One of them is materials, and I talk about it in that video if you want to go back and look, but definitely look for better materials in this brand. You can get some really good money for it. Next up is a brand I've been really picky with. It is Rock Revival, especially in the women's department. The women's department is definitely, like men's, I can still know that I can pick it up and have a good sell-through. It's just the prices drop. But women's, it really seems like you got to look up everything, including the size. So this is Stephanie bootcut jeans. These are in a size 31, which is a lot larger size than I normally find in these. So we looked them up. With this particular size, seemed to be doing well, and these were in pretty decent condition. We actually paid up for these. We paid $15. We listed it for $44.98. It took about a month to sell, but it did sell for our full asking price. I showed this, I think, I don't know if it was a thrift haul or a thrift with me, but you guys seem to have loved this sweater. So this is a Jules, which is another brand I'm kind of looking into. This seems to have a pretty decent following. Knitwear. This is a size 10. I always say novelty print sweaters perform well even in mall brands. So immediately I wanted to look at this. It's got wiener dog here, and the graphic actually goes to the back, as you can see here. I thought this was so cute. When I did comps on this, I was like, wow, these are really good comps for this particular sweater. I paid $4.99 for it. We listed it for $49.87. It sold within just a few weeks for an offer to watcher, which is 10% off for me, of $44.88. So I definitely keep your eye out for Jules, but also in other brands, look for these novelty print sweaters that have some kind of a graphic on them, especially animals. This is a good example of kind of like a Y2K looking shoe. A lot of people have been asking me more about kind of Y2K trends to look for. I can't just specifically say certain factors. It's just like an overall aesthetic. And I honestly, I could not even, like if I was trying to train Nikki on it, I couldn't be like, hey, look for this specific factor. It's just, again, an overall aesthetic. So I'll do my best to try and show you some of the pieces and kind of point those out as I go. The only factor I can really think of is like chunky heels, which this one didn't really necessarily have. But I will say that Skechers is a very popular brand right now because of that Y2K trend. They tend to have a lot of Y2K looking stuff. So if you find older Skechers, definitely a good indicator of something you might want to get. These were winter for snow boots by Skechers. They were an older style, but these are called the Grand Jams, and I was able to look up that exact style and found that they had really good comps. These were also a size 10, so that's really going to help to up the value as well. You can see we did have to note multiple signs of wear throughout. Even with that, we decided to list it for about $40. We paid $8.99, and it sold within, let me see, within about a month for an offer to watch of $35.89, which is a really good return on investment for an old pair of Skechers with falls. But keep your eye out for Skechers, particularly the older ones. Those normally fall under a Y2K aesthetic. Next up is a Denim and Supply by Ralph Lauren sweater. I think I got this from ThredUp. One day I went crazy and went on ThredUp and bought a bunch of their lower price Ralph Lauren items that had Aztec stuff on it and Western stuff. I think this was one of them. This was a new with tags item. I think that day I spent about $11 on each item with the hopes that they would sell for obviously more since I was paying up. This really screamed to me that Western Aztec aesthetic. You can see it's got fringe and really nice prints. In this brand, Denim and Supply by Ralph Lauren, that's kind of what they are known for. So if you find anything unique in that brand, you can ask for quite a bit of money for it. So I think I paid 11-ish. We originally listed it for about $65. It did not sell very quickly, which, my mistake for pricing it that high. But I think that honestly was what comps were when I was doing the research on it back then. Maybe I listed it in the wrong season. But anyways, it ended up selling for an offer of $45, which 11 into 45 is still good. But I did want to show you this because if you're finding this at a regular thrift store for $5 or under, absolutely, definitely something that you're going to want to look for. And in this brand, this kind of print and style does really, really well. This is one of my favorite brands to sell. It is Sundance. I'm going to be honest, I pick up almost everything in Sundance. I just can't seem to say no to it. Has really good following. Obviously, anything more substantial or with better materials is going to help to up the value. This one had both. It was a size extra large women's merino wool cardigan. Kind of had that like Fair Isle Nordic look to it. Kind of ski-ish, would all be great keywords to use. We paid $4.89 for it. I listed it for $39.87. It sold within a few weeks for an offer to watcher of $35.88. This was probably my most surprising sale last week. I don't know. This is the brand Glider, which I had come across many times and did comps on, and it was not good. However, I found this particular sweatshirt at a thrift store and I was like, man, this feels so high quality. I mean, I cannot explain just how soft this sweatshirt was. It was also tie-dye, which can sometimes up the value, and it was a longer length. It was kind of like a tunic sweatshirt, and it was just really nice. I don't know what else to say other than it felt very substantial. So then I looked at the brand and I was like, oh man, I've comped this brand before and it did not perform well, but I'm going to look it up anyways just because it felt really high quality. I just had that gut feeling about it. So I looked up Glider tie-dye sweatshirts and amazing sell-through rate and really good comps. So I guess if you find this particular style in this brand, it can do really well, but it just goes to show that some brands that you might comp in other things, let's say sweatpants, don't do well in this brand. It's worth still looking it up if you feel something that you don't normally get, but it feels super high quality, to go ahead and look up that particular style. I was very surprised by the comps. They were ranging from anywhere from 30 to 40 pre-owned, which was really good for a pre-owned sweatshirt. I paid $4.89. We went ahead and listed ours in the middle at $34.87. It sold within just a couple of weeks for our full asking price. So I was super happy with that, and I'll definitely be keeping my eye out. Whenever something that surprises me like this item happens, I always try to remember what factors that item had, what the item was like, what it felt like. That way when I go sourcing again, not just looking for this particular style and this particular brand, but also trying to remember the things that I think made it sell and why people were looking for that item, so I can look for those factors in other things. So if I ever feel a garment that feels like this one did, I'm definitely going to look it up. And that's how I've been able to really build my, I guess, toolbox, my tips for myself on sourcing, and become a better sourcer, is just by remembering what factors things that sold quickly have. So moving on from the glider sweatshirt. Next up is Everlane. I found a bunch of Everlane stuff. I think one of my Goodwills that I go to had like a buyout because there was a lot of Everlane pre-owned and new with tag stuff like all in one area. And I was very cautious as I went through because they did not comp very well. But I did notice that the larger sizes were comping well. So I went through and pulled all of the Everlane larger size sweaters because they did have good comps. I paid up for quite a few of them, but they have since been selling for good money. So I'm glad I did make that buy. I think it would have been really easy to go in and go, oh, Everlane's a great brand. I see people talking about that all the time, and just get excited and buy up everything. But I'm really glad that I paused and that I've learned over time that not everything and every brand sells just because somebody talks about it on YouTube. This was one of those cases. So I only picked up the larger sizes in the more substantial pieces like sweaters. This one is just, I think it was 100% cotton, just a pullover sweater. Nothing special about it other than it was size extra large. Everlane does make quality pieces, so they do have quite a bit of following, but I would say resale wise, it does tend to sit depending on what you have. Sweaters seem to be doing good though. So I paid $9.99 for this. We listed it for $40-ish, $39.87. This one sold within a few weeks for an offer to watcher of $35.88. And the reason I was willing to pay up for this is because of the larger size, and I did specific comps that told me this is going to sell quickly if you price it at this price, which it did sell quickly. So I'm happy I got that, but I thought that was a good learning lesson that I wanted to share is if you ever come across like a mass amount of a brand that is sometimes good, it's really easy to get excited and get all of them, but you don't want to do that. You really want to do comps on specific sizes and styles. Otherwise, you're going to end up spending a bunch of money and sitting on those items. Next up is Banana Republic. This is also a brand that I have been experimenting with, kind of like Calvin Klein. Banana Republic is a mall brand, but they do tend to have a following and they do retail for quite a bit. So again, I'm just kind of trying to figure out what works in this brand. I do think I have it figured out with Banana Republic. This one was a new with tags women's like layering piece Dustin cardigan. I see a typo. This was supposed to say long, not login. But I got this because, again, comps were good. I looked up the specific style. Layering pieces, like flowy pieces, are really in right now with the login look trend. I paid $4.89 for it. We listed it for about $35. It ended up selling within, this would take a little bit longer, within a few months to sell for an offer of $31.49, which is an offer to watcher that I sent out. Last one on eBay before we jump on Poshmark. This is a J. Jill sweater. I talk about J. Jill a lot. It is a solid bread and butter for me. I try to stick to the larger sizes and I also try to stick to more substantial pieces. This is a ribbed cowl neck sweater. I thought it was a really nice color and it was a size extra large. Again, I'm trying to stick to larger sizes. Plus size is definitely the best in this brand. Extra large, you're kind of veering off into a not 100% sell-through rate, but I thought this had enough going for it. So I paid $4.89. We listed it for about $35. This one actually sold in a bundle with another piece, and with a discount, this individual piece sold for about $29, which I thought was really good. Next up is some of our Poshmark sales. Again, as you saw in this spreadsheet, our sell-through rate was really good because we sold a lot of items, but our average sale price was very, very low. And again, that's just because we were clearing some stuff out, but we did have a lot of really good higher price sales, which are these ones that I've pulled to show you today. So I just don't want anyone listening to this to think that you can only use Poshmark to sell your older items. That's not true. We've just been using one of their sale days essentially to move older items, but we do still intend and do use it for regular sales as well. So this is Blonky. This is a maternity brand that we found at the bins. We've been experimenting with some maternity brands. They've been performing really well for us actually. At the bins, it's really not that much of a risk to test stuff out, so we did pick this one up. It's just a pair of pull-on leggings, size small. They sold pretty quickly on Poshmark for $27. This is a brand that retails for a lot, and although you may sit on it longer than other pieces, I don't think this is necessarily always a quick sale, but it always ends up selling for me for a decent amount, so I do continue to get it. They make really high quality pieces. It is Ming Wong, and they're more of like a more mature, artsy kind of brand. You'll see I even used artsy in the title because that's what it's known for. These knit like blazer jackets perform really well, or cardigan blazers perform really well. I paid only $2.99 for this, and it ended up selling for $45. I think this one did take about a month to sell. And like I said, even if it were to take a few months to sell, I think holding out for the right price is worth it. Same thing with this one. This is a Rada Silent Journey. These ones are really easy to spot. They've got a really interesting tag, and then typically the back panel is contrasting, like this one here. They're very easy to spot. I was very surprised. I hadn't come across this brand in a while. It used to be a huge bolo in the reseller community, but I did comps again and I was like, actually not performing as well as it used to. However, these kimonos, even though they did not have a 100% sell-through rate, seemed to sell for a lot when they did sell, and I thought I had a good one, so I did take a chance on it. We picked it up for $4.89 at a Goodwill. We listed it, I think, for $85, and it ended up selling for $76, which is a great return on investment. And surprisingly, this one only took about a month to sell, so I'm really happy with that. Personally, I go against the sell-through rate with this brand if it is a substantial piece like this. Next up is one I wanted to show you. This is kind of a quirky one to look for. This is Spitfire. If you guys see this logo here, you guys might remember it if you're like a 90s, 2000s baby. But Spitfire stuff does really well. And so I saw that logo and I was like, oh, we gotta look that up. This one was a particular hoodie that said The End on the back. And I looked up this particular hoodie and it did have a really good sell-through rate. Now mine did have some flaws, so I priced mine a little bit lower. The brand label was actually missing, but you can totally tell what it is because of the Spitfire logo. It sold extremely quickly. This brand has a very high sell-through rate, again just with that Y2K trend. We listed for we picked it up for $4.89. We listed around, I think it was 35 or 40. We ended up getting an offer for $31, which we did accept. And again, this one sold very quickly. This one was something I paid entirely too much for, but I found it at a consignment shop along with some other Anthropologie pieces. And I just thought it was gorgeous, that it like really embodied everything Anthropologie, and I was like, this is going to sell quickly, so I am going to take the risk on picking it up at this higher price, because look at it, it's just so pretty. So anything like this in Anthropologie, I am very picky on Anthropologie, especially if I'm paying full price, but anything like this where it is like extremely statement piece always performs well for me. We actually paid $9.75 for this. We listed it. I expected to get about $45, which is where we listed it. We accepted an offer of $36 just because we got one quickly and we're not going to sit on the item. So I thought that was a really good return on investment really quickly, even paying up for an item. But if you're picking on Anthropologie pieces, if you're like, yeah, I pick it up, it doesn't sell, try to look for these statement pieces like this one. Next up is another brand that I've been experimenting with. It is Michael, or Michael by Michael Kors. This is a size extra large women's sweater. Here's what I can tell you about this brand. Larger sizes seem to perform better. You guys are probably tired of hearing that. This is like with every brand, but I do set rules for myself, like I'm probably not going to pick up Michael Kors unless it is an extra large or higher. But when I check the sell-through rate of these larger size ones, they're like 100% sell-through, so I can't pass them up. So I'm letting you know, if you come across extra large 1X and higher of Michael Kors, definitely do your comp still, but the sell-through rate when I look stuff up is there, and I'm going to pick up the larger sizes and make 25-30 bucks off of them because I come across them pretty often. This I paid $3.99 for. It's just a pretty plain ivory knit sweater. It ended up selling for $31. I think we had it listed for $35 on Posh. Next up is a very solid seller for me. I found a few of these lately. They are flying off the shelf. It is Orvis men's vest. This is a size large. It is just a quilted vest. I paid $5.99 for this one. At my Goodwills, I know a lot of you are going to say that that's cheap, but at my Goodwills, vests are considered like lightweight jackets. And so for me, at least, picking up a vest can be kind of risky because you are paying significantly up for it. And then it's a vest, so like the arms are cut off, right? So it's probably not going to sell as much as a jacket would. So I do have to be very diligent in doing my comps on vests just because of the higher price at my thrift store. Again, I know some of you are going to be like, at my thrift store, they price vests for $20. But where I'm located, we have really good prices. So when I see a jump in price on a smaller piece like this, it does make me rethink my buying decisions. So I paid $5.99, but I did do specific comps and they were going for about $40, so I thought that was totally worth it. This one, I think we listed for $45 on Posh. It ended up selling extremely quickly for $38. And every men's Orvis vest that I've listed has just, again, flown off the shelf, flown out of my closet. So, and they're all selling for about $40. So I would definitely keep your eye out for Orvis men's vests. Next up is another kind of Y2K item. This is, which I think it's funny, I'm showing you Y2K things, but we don't even have Y2K keywords in our listing because we didn't catch it. It sold that quickly. But this is an example of a Y2K item that you might want to look for. Any kind of older Steve Madden stuff with like a chunky or a block heel. I've noticed that is another brand, kind of like Skechers, that really tends to fall into that aesthetic that does really well for me. So a lot of people pass on these just because you can see there's like distressing on the leather, but I've actually found that that tends to add value when it comes to this brand. So I've sold a lot of vintage Steve Madden stuff, which has just been a really solid seller for me. So when I found these at the bins, everyone else had passed on them. I was like, I am definitely getting these. So I think we listed at $65 and accepted an offer of $57. And again, these ones sold super duper quickly. And I have sold ones like this in the past and I'm still picking them up because I'm going to follow along that Y2K trend as long as it is popular and as long as I can sell items in that style. But this would be a good example. Next up is not a huge sale, but something you might want to look for. It is flannel lined pants, men's, women's, jeans, sweatpants, anything lined with like wool or flannel is definitely going to add value. So I would definitely keep your eye out for it. Eddie Bauer is a good example of a brand that does this. It doesn't always sell for a ton again, but it does have a really good sell-through rate. So if you price it correctly, it should sell within like a week to 2 weeks, especially during this time of the year. So this is just a pair of Eddie Bauer flannel line, kind of like almost like snow sweatpant. And we listed, I think, originally for $35 on Posh. It sold very, very quickly for $27. And last sale on Poshmark is a brand I do actually like selling, but that's not why I'm showing you it today. It is Alphalete. But the reason I wanted to show you this, and I've talked about this in a couple videos now, is this crossover waistband. If you guys see this right here, this is like really on trend right now. And a good keyword to use is crossover. I know I've showed you like some airy pieces lately that have had that. So I would keep your eye out for that. If you see anything with this crossover, definitely do your comp with that keyword crossover. But it can be a good indicator of a trending item that is going to sell quickly for you. Only paid $2.99 for these. I think we listed $4.38 around there on Posh. It ended up selling very quickly for $32.
Alright guys, so that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. Once again, if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe down below. If you like this kind of content, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.